So I got Lamont Peterson testing positive for high, higher than normal testosterone levels, and you know, I'm disappointed. Lamont Peterson, man, I'm looking forward to his rematch with Amir Khan. See how it would play out, but you know, I lost respect for the dude now. Any fighter who who would do something like that, just a bum. That's just as bad as, Antonio Margarito's illegal hand wraps from a few years ago. It's the pitiful, it's despicable, it's a disgrace to the sport. And everybody's criticizing, Mayweather for, asking any opponent who wants to face him to take, random blood and urine tests, you know. Andre Ward, he said that's something he liked to do, you know, if he was able to for his fights. He said he liked to be the first person, after Mayweather to start doing that in his fights. The only thing is he's worried about, the cost of it. Unless the Nevada Commission is willing to, adopt, um, the anti-doping agency's code or way of doing testing. It's not going to happen. There's not going to be any assistance or funding. There's something that's going to come out the fighters' pockets. Floyd's paying for the drug testing that he's doing for his fight because the not athletic commission, but the anti-doping agency, they they charge for their services. They don't do it for free. So that's something to keep in mind. If the Nevada State Athletic Commission, if they really wanted to, they could adopt that, or for certain fights, if a fighter requests it, then they should either do things the way that the anti-doping agency does, or, get the anti-doping agency to do the testing for them. Because, what's her name? Margaret Goodman, she used to be with the Nevada State Athletic Commission. She's also, a, what was it? She's a ringside, she's one of those ringside doctors. And she's been, ringside for a lot of fights. She got a lot of experience with this, and she explained the way that the Nevada Commission does what they call random testing. And the way that they do random testing isn't, it's not random at all. I explained this in one of my earlier videos called Random Drug Testing for Dummies. And she explains that I took a quote from her where she was explaining the process that the Nevada Commission does for what they call their version of random testing. They tell you that you're going to have a test, and then you have 48 hours, 2 whole days to show up. That's not random. That's like, random is like a pop quiz. You telling them in advance there's going to be a pop quiz. That's giving them time to prepare for it. Just in case they have something they need to fix before that time comes, so that they can pass. That's what happens when you tell them ahead of time. What needs to be done, and what the World Anti-Doping Agency does, is do it unannounced. They come in and they tell you, yo, we're gonna take a blood sample, we're gonna take a urine sample, and that's it. You got to do it on the spot. Ain't no ducking or dodging it. But doesn't that raise suspicion? I mean, people are like, you know, with Bernard Hopkins, who was it? Pascal requested, drug testing for him. They had who else? Benito Denaire. He agreed to random testing, I think, too. Mosley, Ortiz, and Cotto all agreed and did it. Mayweather, he's been doing it. And one stupid thing about Freddie Roach on the matter is he's like, maybe we should test Floyd every day. I'm like, okay, how is he gonna talk about testing Floyd every day when he's the guy who proposed it? I'm saying they're finding all these people in combat sports, cheating. They got Chael Sonnen. They caught him. They had who else? Alistair Overeem. They got him. Boxing just now. They got Lamont Peterson. They had Shane Mosley in the past, and Shane Mosley, he never failed any drug test. He had to come out and say that he was on something. He admitted to it. He didn't fail any blood tests or drug testing at all. Another thing, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they don't do blood testing with their urine tests. And fighters, they normally do the test after the fight. They do a post-fight test. In championship fights, I think they do one before and after. All fighters also got to take that test to get their license renewed each year, and that it's just a couple of times. It could be anywhere between 2 to 5 times. A year, depending on how often they're active, and they know that's when the tests are going to be. So if a person is failing those drug tests, knowing that they're going to have to give drug tests at those times, it just shows that they're stupid. They're stupid for being on drugs, knowing they got a test, and stupid for knowing that, when they are doing drugs and the test is coming up and they know that that's the time it's going to be, why take something that's going to be in your system at that time? And with that in mind, it's suspicious how they say there's no issue with drug testing for Pacquiao. And Merchant asked Floyd about the Pacquiao fight after his win over Cotto. What it would take for that fight to happen? Like, what's the issue with the purse split and all that? Floyd brought up the drug test, and people were like, why is he bringing that up? Well, that's because in February, just, 2-3 months ago, when the negotiation for the fight with Pacquiao was still trying to happen, Michael Kantz was interviewed, and he said, I think the article was like February 3rd, and Michael Kantz, he said that they still didn't want testing on fight day. Well, Shane Mosley and Floyd, they had testing fight day. Ortiz and Floyd had testing fight day. I'm not sure about Cotto and Floyd yet, because last time I checked, it was yesterday, the United States Anti-Doping Agency doesn't have that up on their site yet. But they do have the testing schedule and results for Mosley and Ortiz and Mayweather in both of those fights on their website for y'all to go look at. Another thing about the drug testing is some people still complain that um, Floyd asking for drug testing is crazy. Well, this shows that it's not. It's called Lamont Peterson. In this random testing, people complain that it's Floyd's way of trying to control Pacquiao. But, Pacquiao isn't the only one he's asked to do it. And with the things happening in the sport right now, it should raise more suspicion about any fighter who doesn't want to do it. And Pacquiao isn't the only one. I mean, look what happened with Bernard Hopkins when Pascal brought it up for their fight. Who, and Pascal ain't the only one. There's even fighters in the UFC wanting to get their opponents tested for PEDs now, performance enhancement drugs. People in the UFC is wanting that now too. And Mayweather, you might not agree with everything he does outside the ring. He does do some stupid stuff outside the ring, but when it comes to the sport, anything he's done for the sport, he's had like a positive impact on it. Whether you love him or hate him, he brings attention to the sport, and the fan base of the sport is kind of dying out because of MMA and mixed martial arts, UFC, all that. He brings attention to the sport. He brings, the controversy, the arguments, the debates, all the things that people like to surround themselves in, drama. He causes drama for the sport, but he keeps it entertaining. And for some reason, people like drama, so they're drawn to it. You can't tell me y'all don't know people who don't like drama, like to involve themselves in drama. A lot of people do, and he keeps people interested in boxing by doing that, by bringing in that drama. And it's a good thing that he does want, that random blood and urine testing done for him and his opponents. I mean, since his fight with Mosley, when is it? It was just 2 years. It became 2 years, May 1st, since his fight with Mosley. In those 2 years, from the Mosley fight until now, the Cotto fight, Floyd has been tested. How many times was it? He's been tested up to close to 40 times. Between the Mosley and Ortiz fight, he was tested 27 times. 27. What other fighter has been tested that amount of times in such a short period of time? I bet y'all can't name another one. Besides him, Ortiz and Mosley are the ones who've been tested the most over the past few years. For Floyd's fight with Ortiz, he gave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 urine tests and 5 blood tests for his fight with Ortiz. His fight with Mosley, also shown on USADA.org, he had 7 urine tests, 8, and 4 blood tests. So he had 11. 11 for his fight with Mosley. And then for his fight with Ortiz, correction, with Mosley he had 12 tests. Victor Ortiz, he had 15 tests done. It's 27. So you can guess, they did close to the same number for his fight with Cotto. So that the number of tests since his Mosley fight has been about 40. That's 40 blood and urine tests just for 3 fights. What other fighters doing that right now? And people want to criticize him and hate on him for stuff he's doing unrelated to boxing. But, let that get in the way of the things that he is doing for the sport. And whether you hate or love him based on the stupid stuff he do outside the ring, it don't mean you gotta let that get in the way of appreciating the positive he's doing inside the ring or positive he's doing in other places. Random blood and urine testing is something that I feel, with over the past 2 years in UFC and boxing, like the number of incidents they've had with athletes and illegal substances being in the system over the past 2 years since Floyd first requested that for his fight with Mosley. There's been more recently, and with that in mind, there's no telling how many others is on it and haven't been caught yet. Simply because of sad, lazy way of doing things. It's pitiful. I mean, you got Nazim Richardson of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. They didn't notice nothing wrong with Canelo Alvarez's gloves. That fight day this last Saturday. Nazim noticed that the thumb on Alvarez's glove was a different type of material, had a point at the end that could puncture skin and cause cuts. And the Nevada State Athletic Commission didn't notice that. Just like they ain't noticed what was up with Antonio Margarito's hand wraps whenever he was using them loaded gloves, that plaster of Paris stuff. They're supposed to be like the most reliable. It's supposed to be like the go-to athletic commission, and they're not noticing that stuff. So shouldn't that raise questions? Shouldn't that make people say, maybe this random drug testing ain't such a bad idea. Maybe it's something that should be done. That's just my thoughts on it. Y'all might have your own thoughts. If y'all don't think that, better forms of testing should be adopted for the sport, y'all are people then who just don't care about the sport. Y'all is people who, how to put it like this, if y'all don't support better forms of drug testing or better forms of inspection to make sure that fighters is following the rules, then that means y'all don't really care about the fighter's health or nothing, or what they might have to go through if they end up getting hurt, because somebody that they end up being matched up against is doing this bullshit. And if y'all is in favor of that, then bottom line, y'all just some shitty people. I'm out.